You are listening to the Savage FINcast Retro, Episode 17, Graphic Fantasy 1 and 2.
Chicago. A criminal mastermind called Overlord held our city in his terrifying grip. Ordinary cops were losing the battle against Overlord's super freaks and mutants. Then, a miracle happened. When I found him, he had no memory of his past. I helped him find an identity and a life. Now we have a fighting chance. Now we have the dragon.
This is the Savage FINcast, the FINcast that is the living embodiment of the anger and frustration of housewives overworked by inconsiderate husbands and ungrateful children. I'm Raven Perez.
I'm Jim Purcell.
I'm Craig Olson.
And the Savage FINcast Retro, we take a look back at the past issues of Savage Dragon, past story arcs, spin-offs, and we do not quite as deep dive as we normally do, but brother, it don't get more retro than this. Graphic Fantasy number 1 and 2.
These were solicited back, I think, in December or January. Or, I can't remember. Did they come out in January? I don't know. But it was a surprise to see these, because Image, I don't believe, has done facsimile editions such as these before.
Not that I know of.
So it is fascinating to see them. Well, I don't know if it's Image or if it's just Eric doing it, but it is an interesting choice. Because the Image has done like famous first issues, that sort of thing before.
Correct. Yep.
But this sort of like reproduction of everything in the original issues is new.
Yeah. Also worth noting that like when we say reproduction, of course, the odds of our listeners not having the issues is slim, but it needs mentioned that these are reproduced down to the paper type.
So
like,
I heard that. So how true is that? Because I have the digital copy, of course. I do not have the print copy. So is it rough paper stock like you would imagine, like these old like indie comics would have?
It's matte. Yeah, it's a matte finish.
Wait, it's matte. It's not.
Yeah, it's not slick.
Well, in my mind, matte is a form of slickness. I'm talking like newsprint.
This is not newsprint rough, but man, it's a step above that. Like, it's close.
But would an indie comic from '82 have that kind of paper?
I feel like it. I mean, Craig, wouldn't you say it feels close to like just 20-pound copy paper?
Yeah, I mean, there's no difference between the cover and the interior pages.
So does it actually feel thicker than typical comic paper?
It's thicker than newsprint, but it feels like copy paper almost.
Yeah, it feels like copy paper. That's the best way to do.
But it is different from a typical Image comic of the day of currently.
Oh, big time.
Oh,
dude.
yeah, absolutely.
And where that is most striking, it's hilarious because I never realized how true blacks don't really have that like darkness that a matte finish can have. Like, every Image comic is printed on slick paper, and I love that. I'm not saying that I don't. But
modern slick paper kind of sucks, like across the board, in my opinion.
Does it?
It all kind of feels kind of cheap and like really prone to like humidity, wrinkling, in my experience.
Yeah, some of those you get, like the covers too, are just kind of like all wrinkly.
It's like it's not like back in like
the 90s?
Like, even in the 90s, the paper stock just felt heavier, I guess. It was glossier, but I'm sure it also cost a heck of a lot more.
Well, all I know is that, like, a Graphic Fantasy number 2, the way that the blacks are, like, just so dark and rich, man, it's striking. It's actually kind of striking. I like it.
Is that because the paper isn't glossy, so there's no shine on it?
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can smell the print too. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, it to me, it's like probably what happened in '82 is they just went to some copy center and had a handful made or whatever. I don't know how many. I forget. Did he was talking about the process at one point because he said some of the initial batches of Graphic Fantasy, like the ink didn't dry on them of the originals, not these reprints. Do you remember or recall anything?
Well, he
like
did that in an interview with us, yeah. He said that they tried to do it on a little, like, not really meant for that printing press. And he said that, like, the ink was just gummy and sticking and, like, just wasn't really clean prints or anything.
For text and when you do the thick
like he was
films.
rushing. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, it was probably intended for print, and so when you're doing the thick color fills that art requires, it's probably just takes too long to dry.
Right, and I think they were trying to go to a convention or something, and they didn't dry fast enough for what they needed it for.
Well, you're gonna laugh. This is the tiniest bit of experience with this, but when I first got my hands physically on it, because the build up to this, he's like, oh, it's gonna be on the same stock, and then he got the primo cop, not primo copies, the early copies, the early editions, and he was like, oh my god, it's incredible, it's just like the ones I used to have, and he's like, it feels no different, it's crazy. And so I was like, man, I can't wait to fill this paper. Well, here's what's so funny. Little baby's first printing experience of my own. My very first print job was done at a printing press, and I didn't know shit about the paper. And so I told the guy, I just said, whatever. I said, you got to keep it under this budget. I wasn't like worried about paper. I was just worried about like cost. And it feels just like this. Like it feels like my first printed comic feels just like this Graphic Fantasy. So this just must be like the cheapest stock that they had. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Is it standard comic sized?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it?
Is it a little bigger? I don't know.
It feels. Hold on, let me grab I got a comic here. Let me compare real quick.
Yeah, it's standard.
Huh.
Yeah, it's
It
standard.
might be a smidge smaller.
The thickness is throwing it off, but yeah, it's about the same. It's cool, dude. And again, apparently it's very convincing because Eric said that it's convincing enough that if he walks around and sees it, a funny anecdote is he said he'll be walking around and be like, oh shit, that shouldn't be out, and then he realizes it's just the like facsimile.
At least he had the what's the word? The wherewithal.
Foresight?
Not the foresight, the wherewithal to put the Image Comics logo on the cover.
Right.
So it is different enough that no one's going to try and pass it off. Because I'll be honest, I actually had a copy of a Marvel facsimile edition come through my comic shop that I work at. Well, retro game store that deals in comics. And on the surface, just glancing at it, there's nothing that indicates that this is not a 1960s comic book. Except for the fact the paper stock is completely different. That's kind of what caught my attention about it. That was the only way for me to tell, because even the copyright information doesn't tell you when it was printed, only when it was published.
The funny thing about these is that, of course, he keeps the original, like you mentioned, like the copyright info. He keeps the original Ajax copyright info in there.
Yep.
But then the Image copyright info is, also in there. So you got the 1982 So There, Nya Nya Nya. And then you look on the other page and there's the, it's talking about like 2021 February and all that stuff. I'm like, oh man, it's cool. So like, again, it's not going to really fool anybody, I don't think. Right. But because in order to do that, you'd have to replace the front cover and the front page.
Well, it does say $9.99 too on it.
Yeah. What was the price on the original? Do you know?
Probably not $9.99.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Not worth bringing up. Fuck it. We won't slow up the show about that. But yeah, man, it's cool. These are so cool. I'm really glad that he did it. I think it's amazing. This is the kind of thing that, like, I feel like Graphic Fantasy obviously are holy grails for Savage Dragon fans.
You guys kind of hope he does the same thing with the Megaton issues?
I would love that. I would love that.
It's been done a few times though, but actually so is Graphic Fantasy, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff was all reprinted in Savage Dragon Archives. At least the Dragon portions were.
And then Wizard had that special issue that
did
reprinted it.
And of course, it's
Yeah.
appeared as backups in color as recently as just last year.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny. Like, I can almost tell you, like, beat for beat, this Graphic Fantasy 2.
Yeah.
Like, we've reviewed this many times.
Yeah, we've talked about it before because it was a backup very recently. In fact, we probably won't put a lot of time into it because we have talked about it so recently.
Right.
We'll probably talk a lot more
Yeah.
about Graphic Fantasy 1 versus 2. We also talked about the fact that that story was repurposed as an actual issue of Savage Dragon. Although I can't
Right.
tell you the number off the top of my head.
So I'll tell you, Graphic Fantasy was reprinted in 225, number 1 was, and then the one that Eric redrew was in issue 63, which he took the story and just modernized the drawings, and basically it's almost panel for panel.
I think the big change was the ending.
Yeah, and then Graphic Fantasy 2 was reprinted recently in 250, and when Eric redrew it and repurposed it for this new for the current series, it was Savage Dragon 65.
Nice.
And then Prism was reprinted in Savage Dragon 135,
Right, with the
which
with
is
the World
the issue
Tour.
with Prism.
Yeah, with Prism.
Yep.
So, I'm glad you brought that up.
And then, sorry, one more thing.
Oh.
He did print the archives, the Savage Dragon archives in 1998, which was a 4-issue series that had Graphic Fantasy printed in there and the Megaton issues.
So I was just going to ask. So as I'm reading Prism, I was struggling to remember that. I knew that Prism showed up in modern day,
Yes.
but it was the Savage World, right?
It was Savage World. It was part of the Image World Tour arc when Dragon
Okay.
was looking for Jennifer.
He went to Seattle.
Yeah, it was on the cover too, right?
He was. I think it was two issues, in fact.
Okay.
2 issues, yep.
And you said that was kind of a retelling of this?
No. It's basically a
No.
straight up sequel to it. Well, it was
Sequel, cool.
like a Prism conclusion, I guess.
Mhm.
I haven't
Well, it
read it in a
wasn't-
while, but it felt like they
I
were
don't-
tying up Prism loose ends.
I don't think it was I think it was just kind of how Paul Dragon is to Dragon.
Right.
Like it was Prism, but I don't know that it was supposed to be the same.
The same
like,
Prism?
continuation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like a modern Prism.
Could be.
Oh, that's cool,
But
man.
it had the Centurions or whatever they're called in this.
And Ironhawk hasn't shown up at all, right?
No, Ironhawk is.
He was showed up for a panel in the wedding issue with
Cool.
Barbaric, right? Him
I
and,
don't
Prism
know.
both showed up in with like remember that issue was all like indie comic characters in the wedding.
Yeah, FemForce and Madman and stuff.
the
Yeah.
stupid rat creatures of all characters. It's
Yeah.
kind of nuts.
That's
Arm,
the deepest
Pit.
cut.
Pit's brother Arm.
Or Pit, that's right. Oh my god, dude, yeah. I loved these, dude. Reading this, getting to see this old stuff. Again, talking about it's hard for me as a comic artist not to just geek out a bit about this shit. But Eric mentions he's fucking 19 when he's doing this.
Yeah.
God
This
damn.
came out in 1982. Almost 40 years ago, which when you think about it is insane.
And let me just say that, yeah, it's funny you should say that. Like, I just turned 40 very recently, and I was in 1981 is when he does his December of 1981. I was born in March of that year, and I'm reading this and I'm doing my little comparisons in my head. I'm like, so when I was 19, I was publishing webcomics for 2 years at that point. I was but I was just comparing my shit to this shit, dude. The level of sophistication for fucking a 19-year-old in this graphic fantasy story is fucking nuts.
You gotta think too, this is pre-internet.
Yeah, pre-internet, dude. It
So
matters.
you can't just look shit up and
Right.
download shit. And,
They had libraries, books.
Yeah,
but
but
it's so much more difficult.
completely different though, Jim. I'm talking dude, pre-internet, I had a scrapbook of reference just
Yeah,
taped
a
in.
A lot of artists did, right?
Yeah.
Had to.
Yeah, it was. I remember people bragging about not bragging, but they were talking about legendary resources. Artists wouldn't share their reference book because it kind of fed into their secret sauce. Things they did all the time came from their references that only they had.
I mean, you can spot a bunch of Kirby drawings that are taken from Playboy and stuff, or pictures of women like Big Barda and stuff like that. It's definitely known images
cool.
that were referenced.
So that's what I'm saying is like when you're looking at this, you think like 1981, dude. Like you're far from internet being like a commonplace thing. It's at this point that's like fucking DARPA net. Like it's a secret thing only the fucking military uses. So like, yeah, man, a 19-year-old just fucking publishing like these like comics and I don't know, dude. Like the anatomy's pretty damn good and the storytelling's like way more sophisticated.
Well, think about it. This is 82, so I want to say within like 7 years, he's drawing like Spider-Man.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
isn't that wild, dude? It's weird as shit.
You know what's really wild to me? I just had to look it up and check. This predates Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, 81.
yeah.
So and it's Eric
come around to like 84 and revolutionize the small press like environment. So
and that's the thing.
Black
Like,
and white comics ruled for like this period of like the 80s and then just crashed.
yeah. Well, like Eric made the joke about like Dragon doesn't have Ninja Turtles feet. He's like turtles have dragon feet.
right.
And he's like, bro, he's got him, dude. He got it published like 3 years before.
It's funny.
It's wild.
But it is wild when you look at how much his art has progressed from like this to like I said, like this is the beginning of the decade. At the end of the decade, he's like the premier Spider-Man artist after McFarlane, you know?
And
right.
Yet you can totally see Eric in it. He's still got the same, ultimately
absolutely.
got the same DNA.
Yeah, dude.
And I mean, for the most part, all the poses and the action are good enough for him to just basically swipe it all for an issue of Savage Dragon later on, you know? I mean, he changes some stuff, but just even the storytelling is good enough that he could reuse it and people don't really, you can still, you know, read it in the 19 whatever when the Savage Dragon came out. What was that? When 64 came out.
What's also even crazier to me, you know how everyone kind of like, well, not everyone, but like Eric has certain like, darn it, he has like certain influences from like Walt Simonson.
Sure.
Yeah.
But, like,
Frank Miller, Simonson.
Walt Simonson's Thor run didn't start until a year after this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he takes bits and pieces, but you know, I see Miller and John Byrne and stuff like that, and some of this early stuff.
So Miller's Daredevil did predate this,
and Kirby.
But Kirby, obviously, Kirby's like, obviously Kirby. But you think about some of the influences that Eric like attributes to his art, and like you see in his art, and the timing on this is just very interesting to me because he was definitely doing his own thing when all these other guys were also just kind of not just starting out,
right?
But just starting to become like household comic names.
Sure, yeah. He's also a huge comics fan, so he's still eating up all Marvel comics at this time. You know what I mean? Like, I read his tweets. You ever see? He's got, you know, there's this one Twitter account that posts the comics that came out for the week. You know, whatever it was, 40 years ago, 50 years ago.
Larson loved his Micronauts.
Yeah, he always responds, picked them all up, got those.
Bought that, bought this, didn't buy any.
Which is also kind of nuts because Eric doesn't have any like interest in toys, but yet he read Micronauts.
It's crazy, right? Isn't that weird?
And Rom Space Knight, and it's because he's following them for the artists.
Right.
Well, think about it too, though. Like when that came out, he was already
he was 20,
20s probably, and so he's not collecting the toys. Whereas most of the people that were collecting those toys were kids back then. You didn't have as big of an adult.
And
my god!
And like he never read any of like the Star Wars or the Battlestar Galactica or the TV tie-in stuff. Unless it was he probably got like 2001 because it was Kirby.
Do you know what makes?
Oh, yeah, that's a masterpiece.
Do you know what makes all the sense in the world now?
What?
I feel like I just put two and two together just now. You know how Eric doesn't really give a shit about like, merchandise and cartoon and movie and all that stuff? It's because all of that really sort of happened in like the 80s. That was an 80s push.
Yeah, he was an adult by then.
He was an adult by then. So for him...
He was older when the toy commercial cartoons and the video game consoles all became... I mean, he was around for Atari, but clearly he never got any real affinity for that.
Right. I'm just saying so much shit about that makes a lot of sense because again, you meet young dudes now and like to them, like you'll talk to them and like that's their thing. Like they don't feel like they've made it unless they get like toys and cartoons and movies and
he grew up in the 70s when comics were fucking wild.
Right.
Comics were the bee's knees in the 70s.
It blows my mind, dude. I mean,
But you think about like in the 90s, comic properties were so much more than just comics, you know, because the cartoons and the toys, you know, were also a major part of it.
right. It wasn't just to drive toy sales. Like it was a storytelling. Like here's this thing, you're going to read a story, and that was what it was for.
Yeah.
It's wild, dude. And I'm glad you brought up Turtles because again, it's like if you have in your mind the sophistication that Turtles 1 had, you know, where they kill Shredder, and then you look at this one, it's like, damn, dude, like Eastman and Laird were like, I mean, I know like wasn't like Eastman was like young, but like Peter Laird was pretty old.
Oh yeah, he was based on what I read, he's quite a bit older than Eastman. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of funny because it's like, dude, here's this like 19-year-old kid who's like using screen tones and writing about like a married man dealing with trauma and shit. And it's like,
well, lest we forget, this is to Eric. This is just another issue of Dragon because he's been drawing them for a decade.
This is like issue 61
at this point. So for him,
not decades because he's only 19, but
right.
But for him, this is
he's like issue 125.
Right.
So for him, this is like a culmination. But for us as readers, who this is the first time we're ever seeing Dragon, we're seeing a character introduced and his greatest enemy being defeated.
Right.
Same issue.
Well, again, Shredder.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, isn't it?
You brought up Shredder. It's actually very similar when you think about it, where your biggest foe is introduced in your first issue and then killed at the end.
Right. Like think like, and again, I like Bronze Man was like a mystery, and then I read this graphic fantasy, and I'm like, oh my god, dude! Like he's like a kind of like an overlord, but
He's
like an inventor type.
Because he's definitely got the old man plus mob boss plus.
Yeah.
He's definitely Overlord. Definitely has his DNA in this character.
Yeah.
It's just wild though that this is the first issue of Savage Dragon, right? He's already got Savage Dragon retired,
right,
from his superhero duties. He's got a dead wife and a kid. Right. It's just like, really, this is how we're starting this?
Right, that's your origin. But again, I want you like, it's funny to think about it because it's like, dude, this is immediately appealing. Like I was reading this and I was thinking, God damn, if I read this, I would have been just as hooked as I was with like modern Savage Dragon. And I got to compare this. I won't name names because we won't waste time with that. But like, I've been reading a lot of number ones recently.
Yeah, there's been a lot of number ones recently. It's been interesting time.
There's a lot of like number ones that are really awesome, but also too, I think there's a lot of number ones I've read that are duds.
Ooh, I'm afraid I agree. Lately, the same number ones that I've been reading, the number ones have lacked a certain punch that you kind of need in order to keep reading.
Absolutely, dude.
Certain high-profile ones recently, I think, came out the gate a little bit damp.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just think with this, he hits the ground running, and so it's like we don't have to waste time with this like slow burn build up or anything. It's
right.
All right. Here's the facts, you know.
Here's Dragon,
this guy lives in a dangerous world.
Yeah, here's Dragon busting through a wall. This is how it begins.
Right. He's going to just get the fucking shit beat out of him with a dude with a mace. You know, fucking a bus just pulls up next to him and damn near kills his daughter with fucking like spikes. Like,
I gotta say, Paul's pretty durable. Because as we know, because Paul is now in the regular Savage Dragon comic, he doesn't have the healing capabilities that the Image Comics Dragon has. Yet he's able to survive being hit with multiple like railroad spikes and walk away. So he's pretty durable.
Yeah. Although the door appears to have taken the brunt of them. So
I suppose that's true.
Yeah, Angel got nicked, I think, was the problem. But like the door has taken the brunt of these spikes.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal because when Angel gets like hit here, it's actually really like you think she's dead. It's really freaking brutal.
It's shocking, dude.
He's holding her like limp, bleeding body in his arms.
Yeah, dude. I gotta say, like, and again, the sophistication. I know we don't do page by page on these retros, but like the sophistication of like that page before that of like Paul, and he's just like going out of his mind in the back of the cab, and like there's Susan all fucking giant, and like she's just like kind of see through almost.
Yeah,
I was
she's
like
transparent. She's a memory.
Yeah,
Haunting him.
I'm like, whoa, dude, that's wild. That's wild as shit.
I think actually he not hated, but disliked that page enough to not use that page when he reprinted it in Savage Dragon 63.
Did he really hate it? I like
when he
it.
redrew it.
think-
I don't know if he hated
think
it,
it's-
but he didn't
I think it's
redo
more of a
it.
problem with it doesn't read well as transparency because he wasn't, he was still young and he wasn't very good.
It does to me.
Yeah, I think it works. Also,
Guys.
her boobs are weird. They probably
I
need
was
to
gonna
be
say-
redrawn.
He drew the nipples. It's like if you
Yeah,
look,
he didn't erase them completely.
He did.
you can see him.
See, that's upholstery. See, that's not a nipple. That's wrinkles in upholstery.
Yeah, Paul is he's right where the JJ would be. I was looking for some visual trick, but he's not up to that yet. Take off to the Great White North.
Ah,
It's-
yes.
What foreshadowing? Yeah, what foreshadowing?
Oh, this is the billboard on the bus.
On the bus,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The cab driver points out before it
Hoser
pops down.
Airlines.
Right. Hey guys, look at that.
There is one thing I wanted to mention. I'm not sure what page it's on, but one of the dudes that attacks Dragon in his apartment has a skull on his chest.
Okay.
Is it the
taking a look.
executioner? Although
I doubt it,
what's really fucking weird
it's the
though, is
Punisher.
he's got darts on his wrists.
Yeah, the dude with the darts. It's funny because I was like, which Dart is clearly a character.
Yeah,
She's
she shows
Poison
up.
Dart.
She shows up later.
Yeah, she's Poison Dart, but like that dude definitely has darts, and he's got a little sword on his forehead. Like,
Oh, he does have a sword on his forehead.
yeah,
It's
I'm
like the Sword Man.
Covenant of the Sword, No, I'm kidding. But like, yeah, that guy's kind of weird. He's got like you said, Jim, like almost like a Punisher skull with like weird like batons hanging off of his waist.
What the heck's up with those batons? Now that you mention them. Weird.
I just gotta, like, I'm sorry, gotta just like praise this again, just because it's like, again, here's like a 19-year-old that is drawing backgrounds. There's minorities in these backgrounds. Like on Angel's Wall, there's like children's drawings, like drawn crudely.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying that, like, dude, there's like fucking people now, adults, who don't put that much care and thought into their backgrounds. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I'm tripping out on it, dude. That's all.
Can we talk about the page that I enjoy just as a Savage Dragon fan? It's almost a full page spread, but it's the one where after he gets knocked out.
Oh, he's falling
And
through his
he's-
memories.
Yeah, and it's got all the characters, and you can see like all these guys like Super Patriot.
Yeah.
You can see Mako. You can see Battle Tank, who looks like an actual tank.
It's awesome, dude.
Near Mako. And then you can kind of see Killcat and Dart near Mako, and then you see Zeke, who in Paul Dragon's time was like a football player guy, so he wears this weird like helmet.
Oh, I
It's the
wondered
one
who that
he's
was.
got the helmet with the line down the middle.
I was like, is that like muscly open face? That's Zeke.
And then you also have that like image of Paul Dragon with like the beard and everything.
Yeah.
It looks like he's just wearing like a little dragon hat or something.
Well, I think he's wearing a headband because I think he got hit. I think he's
Yeah.
got like head damage.
I do like it though. I love that page, dude. Like you said, like there's so much fodder for Dragon fans, but also too like little Paul in bed is funny.
Him just falling through the air.
I think Mace is a great visual.
Yeah.
Like, don't you-
Mace is rather iconic, and it's kind of interesting how he basically doesn't change very much from here to the Evil
Right.
series, other than the fact that there he was like an extreme vigilante who would never become an actual villain.
Right.
Whereas here he's definitely a villain, hanging out
Oh,
with
yeah.
the villains.
Sold out to the bad guys.
I mean, a lot of these characters didn't change much.
I do love the idea Paul apparently the SOS has a complex
I think it's just called the complex. I don't think it's an actual
Yeah.
complex. I think it's like a military industrial / complex.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm.
There's 3 of them, right?
Right. And it's cool that, like, I like that Eric sort of throws in a way to have the Marvel Universe be.
Well, he always has. But yeah, basically all of his heroes are members of this complex.
But I love the narrative conceit that the complex and the SOS do such a good job that villains villains concentrate around New York because they don't even want to fuck with the SOS. That's so funny, dude. Because that's the big punchline of the Marvel Universe is why does the entire Marvel Universe take place in New York? And it's like, dude, he wrote a little like explanation for that in this issue. That's so funny to me. Bronze Man is cool because we've mentioned he's an Overlord type guy, but also too he's an inventor, and I love that, dude. Like he made that weird bus with the like daggers and shit.
Right.
I know Eric said he's never going to bring him back, but goddamn, I think he's a cool visual, and I think the idea of like an inventor, we got that a little bit with Scourge, but like Scourge went down like a clown.
Well, he's kind of like evil Iron Man.
Yeah, man. Bronze Man. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a mistake not to bring him back. And I know Eric said he's done it to death, and I know some people might feel different because there's been so many variations of Overlord, but
right.
I mean,
I think it would be pretty neat.
His armor is quite different. Because
I agree.
It's definitely more Iron Man. He's also got those freaking tanks on his back.
Right.
Jetpack of some kind, maybe. Also, he's got that weird nose. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think the little like framing around his face is interesting and could be updated in an interesting way.
I mean, it was updated because ultimately he evolves into Overlord.
Right, but I mean, if you were to bring like Bronze Man back for Paul, is what I'm saying. Like if Paul's foil was to return, I think Eric could do a cool twist on it.
No, I like the design. I think it's neat. I think it could work.
Too bad.
I think it's fucking great.
Touch-ups.
Yeah.
Too bad he just kind of falls in the regular supervillain trap of monologuing and then having the hero bust out.
making a trap of gas, lasers, and electricity.
Yeah, dude. I love
just
how
beat him to
insane.
death. You got him tied down. Just start hitting him.
Yeah, cut his dick off.
Yeah, that'll take the fight out of him.
No,
it's
dude.
pretty awesome that in issue 63, when they redid this graphic fantasy, those same villains pretty much look spot on the same. Like there's not much changes made.
I'm gonna
Mace and Bloop and Animal.
I was gonna test your knowledge. Your X-Ro, he shows up to assassinate the president. Is that right?
No, well,
wow, I'm an idiot.
X-Ro 5 was good.
I just realized I didn't realize that issue 63 was a retelling of this story. The same way the other one was a retelling of Graphic Fantasy 2.
Yeah, it's complete page for page.
Huh.
Even gas lasers and electricity?
He might have changed that a little bit. But no, he didn't.
He didn't? It's the same? Awesome.
Yep. Gas, lasers, electricity. He's not screwing around, he says.
Did you guys know that the madder Paul gets, the stronger Paul gets?
Apparently. It does seem to happen twice.
It's confirmed in the letters column of issue 2.
I can now see where the Hulk comparisons may have come from.
Yeah, he's got the eyes that look up and they're like all white.
Yeah. Yeah, and so...
got mad.
And like you said, it happens like a few times, and Eric confirms that that's one of Paul's powers in the letters column of like... I know this is like breaking form here, but I just got to read his little like Paul's powers thing.
What issue?
Graphic Fantasy 2. He says he literally confirms Paul's power. Whereas as for superpowers, they're pretty much demonstrated. Super strength, bulletproof skin. He can't fly or breathe fire yet, but his strength does increase with his anger. So you're not just like thinking, oh, that's very Hulk-like. It's like, no, dude, like stronger. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I wonder if he's going to keep that around for modern Paul, right?
Right.
We've not seen it yet, but like...
I feel like Eric likes to stick to things like that. So
Me too.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like,
just you see Paul Hulk out. Which he clearly doesn't go dumb. He just gets strong.
He doesn't go dumb, and he also doesn't like bulk up or anything. He literally just gets this burst of strength that lets him bust out, and then he just kind of goes back to doing his normal thing.
Love it, dude. To me, it's different enough that I could accept it.
Right. But then again, if this is a regular power of his, the worst thing you can possibly do is tie him into an elaborate death trap and let him sit there.
Yeah, don't piss him off. You idiots. Aren't you his worst foe? Like, you should know, like, don't get Paul mad. Just fucking kill him.
Just tickle him. Put him in the tickle machine.
Like, shoot a laser in his ear when he's not fucking looking. Like, you know, don't to give him a big speech. I killed your wife, dude. Later. It's like, no. I killed your wife just to make you mad, and now I'm going to kill you. Bye. like, that's not going to make him mad and strong. What a dickhead, Bronze Man.
Gotta say though, it does start the long history of Dragon punching gas and liquid dudes into bubbles.
Is that not fantastic, dude?
Yeah, they don't hold up very well in
I love
Savage
it.
Dragon.
I love it. I also still like the splash page of Paul, like coming at you with like the weird like not dots screen tone.
In darkness, he's dark,
Yeah.
dark dragon. With his D belt, that's how you know he's serious.
The D belt, that's
He
awesome.
needs to bring
The D belt is
D
fantastic.
belt back. You know,
Dude, bring the D belt back.
The D stands for dragon.
You gotta understand, like, listen, if anybody thinks that's a joke, if anybody thinks that I'm insincere about any of that, I am 100% unironically appreciative of the fact that,
Utility belt.
yes, dude, that Paul wore a utility belt. Are you kidding me? That's so
With his
fucking
little
awesome.
Batman capsules on it.
Yes, because there's a funny thing is, like, Batman doesn't do that anymore. So that's a visual, like, Batman has the big squares, right?
Right.
Oh, I didn't even realize that, actually.
Yeah, yeah, the tubes are done. Like, the little tubes of things.
Oh, those bastards. They got rid of his tubes.
Got rid of the bat tubes. All you got's the bat squares now.
Yeah.
It's cowards. So Paul could totally rock the D belt, dude. It's awesome. It's fucking great. I gotta say, and then I know you guys are gonna laugh, but the swerve of finding Antonio Seghetti, Bronze Man, dead. For some reason, I didn't see it coming.
Is he's been dead the whole time, or that he just had a heart attack while getting slapped around?
Oh, you're right. He just had a heart attack getting slapped around.
Because that's the thing. Dragon here, Paul here, is like, he's kind of mad with himself because he made the decision not to kill him, and then he died anyway. The jerk.
Ooh, yeah, look, and he is slapping his bare fucking face.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's had a fucking heart attack because he got backhanded.
Which is a good way to get rid of him, but not make Dragon a killer. So,
Well, yeah.
it's a good device.
Yeah, it's kind of having your cake and eating it too, for sure, right?
That's why we can wear the Superman shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does that, and he has the Superman shirt in 63, but kind of covers it over with a text box.
So, yeah, this is not a bad start to, Dragon.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately the takeaway here is that this is old, and it's rough, but it's not terrible. It is, in fact, good, I would say.
Yeah, I would say it's a strong, 8. As far as, obviously the art could have been better. Obviously, I think it's a little overwritten.
Oh, yeah. He's got word balloons on top of word balloons. He learns the art of brevity as time goes on.
Big time. Yeah, I'm reading this.
This is some McFarlane-esque panel usage, text caption usages.
But that being said, I think that, the tale told here is absolutely compelling. And
Yeah.
we gave it a big old suck off at the beginning of the FinCast, but the art is strangely still good. And so, yeah, I agree, Jim. I think it's still strong as hell, dude.
The wild panels, the crazy action, it's got it all.
The plot twists. I mean,
Oh yeah, the inner reflection, the pathos,
Yeah.
That's always what kind of makes Dragon stand out. Is there's an emotionalness to it that sometimes certain action comics of this, of later '90s era lacked, which is why I think
big time.
Dragon stands out heavily during that period, is because it just feels more, I guess I would say, more mature.
Yeah, just say it. Wildcats was just like, how many cool pictures can we jam in here? And Dragon had heart. That's it.
Yeah, I think how Eric used to put it was like a Marvel comic mixed with Vertigo.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's got the kind of some of the maturity kind of it, but then it's got guys in spandex and it kind of makes fun of it, you know?
Right.
So you can have your cake and eat it, I guess, you know? But for me, you know, even though the art is a little rough, first of all, the art for a 19-year-old, you know, and for like a indie kind of do-it-yourself comic in 1982, you know, is pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah.
But just his storytelling ability and his panel layouts. I mean, some of the poses are a little rough, but the layouts and the way he can tell a story as a 19-year-old, not even of legal age yet, you know, that's what's kind of like, wow. If you saw this and you were a pro, you knew that this guy had a future.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I mean, we have that experience now. Like, you'll see sometimes an artist on Twitter, and you're just like, God damn, you're a teenager? That must have been how people were feeling seeing this, like, graphic fantasy. Because they were just probably like, what the fuck? This kid's like 19? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to take anything to have this kid, like, fucking ready for the big leagues. And it didn't, right? Like you said, 7 years.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's nuts to go from your self-published title to, like, working on super million selling issues in 7 years. Not even a decade. I do want to say, I think that it's worth it for people to, if you're thinking, hey, I'm maybe not going to read this text, you know, read the text. I think it's like really a fantastic snapshot into, like, that's how I even picked up. I had no idea Eric was 19 when this shit came out. And that's in the text over this little, like, superhero breakdown. Basically, Eric's like, well, I'm 19 and you're 32 and Al's 25. And I was just like, it's funny because he's just talking about his life and stuff. And plus, too, like, the other thing I wanted to say is the breakdown of the heroes. Dude, we joked about Evil Dart being called Poison Dart. Take a look at number 10 on that list, fellas. Tell me what it says.
Poison Dart.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Poison Dart is already in the Eric Larson lexicon from like fucking 40 years ago. I'm just saying the willpower to not go back and use that. Like he had an evil dart and never once called her Poison Dart.
I mean, to be honest, it's a little bit of I would say it's a little bit of a clunky name, and that's why he dropped it when he reintroduced Dart.
Right.
Better than Sirocco? Or Bombardo?
Bombardo's
Bombardo.
a good name.
Which of these are your favorite? Like, never mind Dragon or Smash or, things we know. Like, which of these?
I've always liked the name Hurricane.
I like Moon Spider.
Moon Spider is the chick from the Iron Hawk.
And I also unironically like Hellbat.
Eric's is, I think, 9 to 24 is all Eric stuff.
Right. Yeah, Zeke, Poison Dart, Half Man. Half Man's a good name.
Half Man is a great name.
Wait.
He's the dude that's like an alien.
Half the man.
Super Patriot is known as American Hero. That's a big downgrade.
Big time dude.
Believe it or not.
Wait a minute. Are you saying American Hero is superior to Super Patriot?
No, I said it's a downgrade.
Oh, okay,
No,
good.
I guess it would be, he got an upgrade.
Got an upgrade. Big
Name-wise.
glow up.
You glow up, yes, indeed.
I still like Zeke with his weird helmet.
His golden age costume though is still choice. I really like when that shows up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Same. Big same.
So apparently Smasher is not like the same. It's just some guy with a kind of square no neck thing going on.
The Kid, the Deadly Duo.
And Half Man's like that half alien, half whatever dude. That's kind of weird.
I think it's worth noting the hilarious origin of Sergeant Marvel. Craig.
Just in general?
Yeah, no, just the name. Where he's like Marvel Comics,
right.
and then he just tried to fix it real quick by making it Sergeant Marvel Comics.
Oh, is that
for the listeners? Yeah, for the listeners, Eric's pre-graphic fantasy comics that he used to draw himself. He used to just call them Marvel Comics or something, and a kid made fun of him for putting that on his comic books. And so he just scribbled Sergeant in front of it and changed it to Sergeant Marvel Comics.
So who was your Raven when you drew comics as a kid? Who published your comics?
I was not smart enough to have covers. None of my comics had covers.
I was published by Tubular Comics.
Tubular?
Totally tubular, dude.
That's bodacious.
I don't even know what I put on mine.
You made comics as a kid, too?
Yeah, I still have my mom. I had Elastic Man, and he shot like rubber bands. He was just like, basically looked like a mummy, just covered in rubber bands.
Craig, you got to draw him
and
now.
He swung on giant rubber bands.
You got to scan that, get that on the internet.
You got to draw him now.
I'll find it at my mom's. He fought, the cover was him fighting a T-Rex, and it was like a big rubber band around the T-Rex's mouth. It was so dumb.
Dude, that sounds amazing.
I also had Secret Agent Ant, which is before Ant, but the thing is, it had the long ant antennae. But the guy was he was a secret agent, so he wore like a suit, but he had kind of an ant head.
I thought you were going to say instead of a big red butt, he just had like big red balls.
No, he wasn't all thick.
All right.
He just had the long antennae.
I guess it's time for me to tell you all the story of Super Jim.
Yes, dude.
Super Jim?
So Super Jim is a normal kid who has 5 friends: Joog, Boog, Coog, Zynga. Each one of his friends have superpowers. Joog has a laser finger. Boog has super speed. Coog has water ear. And Zynga is just super
The hell is
smart.
water ear?
Water ear? Well, at the time it was you could just squirt a little bit of water out of your ear. It sort of evolved into more of a water construct thing. But it comes from the ear. Funny story about that. I was prone to ear infections as a kid, so I always had rushing water sounds in my ear, and I think that's where it came from.
That's funny as hell, Jim.
So anyway, when they combine their powers into regular Jim, he becomes Super Jim. With all the powers of them, plus a flying skateboard.
They're like the Forever People.
More like I was ripping off Captain Planet, combined with Inspector Gadget.
I was going to say, that's some Captain Planet shit.
Because they all put their powers together and say, go, go, Super Jim.
That's fantastic,
Wow.
dude. That's fantastic.
Eventually, they evolved into something I called the Amazing Five, where they were more traditional superheroes, where Jim became a flying energy shooter called Atomic. Joog
Nice.
they all got real names. They became David. Oh, I can't remember the rest of them.
You got to stick with his classic names, dude.
I like Joog, Boog, Coog, and Zynga.
Coog.
Got to use those baby names. That's how you know it's for real.
Zynga.
Joog, Coog, and Zynga.
Eventually, there was also Ting Ting. He had glue powers, but he's kind of.
If he's Asian,
we're
gonna have words.
No, he's actually he wasn't Asian. He was just a very small child, like really young. He was like a baby.
You know, that's one of the Teletubbies, Ting Ting.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you're head of the game.
You know that.
Yeah, man. You don't know your Teletubbies? Nerd.
No, absolutely not.
Sick nerd.
Absolutely not.
So anyway, whatever stupid shit you're doing now out there, kids, stay with it. It'll get
Hey,
better.
man.
I had
Some of us still do.
I had an issue of the Eagle, which was just basically like the Falcon is now. It's just a guy with a jetpack with wings. But basically, I ripped off Wilsey Portatio X-Men comic and just stole every single pose out of it.
Well, to be fair, I drew a comic called what was it called? It was called Ants, and I basically stole a bunch of Bill Watterson drawings as a basis.
Everybody, as a kid, it's not even a question. You're gonna swipe. You're learning. You're gonna swipe.
That makes me feel better about myself.
I
thanks.
mean, I'm pretty sure everyone does it. Everyone
does it.
Everything I ever created was rip off something else.
Well, dude, art's not created in a vacuum. Your influence, everyone's influenced by everyone.
Like,
something.
Originally, I was ripping off Captain Planet, Power Rangers, and Inspector Gadget. Eventually, I evolved into ripping off the Fantastic Four. After that, I ripped off the Saturday morning Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon because I really like the idea of a post-apocalyptic setting where someone has conquered the world and you have freedom fighters fighting back.
Nice.
That's from Sonic the Hedgehog?
Oh,
It is
the
from
cartoon.
this very specific Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Not the other cartoon,
Wild.
Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is more like a Tex Avery comedy show.
Right. But they both had Urkel, right?
They did both have Urkel, as the voice of Sonic is.
That's what's confusing.
That is the most confusing.
So, I think we should probably jump into Graphic Fantasy 2.
I think we need to mention what else is in this issue.
Yeah, these are...
Oh, crap. You know what? I totally
we got to
forgot.
talk about Prism real quick, because Prism is interesting because Eric inked and lettered it as well, so it's got relevancy.
Right. And on top of that, dude, I am sorry, but, like, I think this is kind of cool. I kind of like this.
You like Prism?
Yeah, I don't like this as much as obviously Dragon. And, like, obviously Dragon's the star of this thing. However, man, there's some stuff to like about this. For one, shout outs to my boy Al Harris for he's going in hard on the smut, the cheesecake.
Oh yeah. All of his women are huge.
Mm-hmm. And he's not afraid to showcase it. Like it, and also too, shout out to Coming Soon, Graphic Fantasy the movie on a billboard. Love it, dude.
Yep, Prism had his own single issue too. I actually was able to snag a copy.
Nice.
Did he? Cool.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
like
and Eric
to pick
drew
it up.
that as well.
This is
Gotta
definitely a
have
bit
it.
more like what's the word? More traditional, I suppose. The panel layouts are not as crazy as Eric would do.
Right.
It's a lot more like very straightforward, very rigid panel structures.
Except for that one page, it's got the diamond in the middle, and then it's got the little arrow to tell you which
Arrows
panel they're in.
the bane of comics.
Yeah, that means you failed.
I'll be honest though, it really didn't need the arrow.
It didn't. No,
Because
I
really,
understood.
it does flow in the right direction. He actually, man,
Right.
with the dialogue balloons, it really just does go in the right direction.
Right.
So the arrow was actually kind of unnecessary, I would say.
Yeah, especially that arrow. Like,
Yeah.
why there? Because it's
Right.
like, where else are you going to go from that if you read the middle one?
Right. Yeah, because the word balloons lead you down into the Superman the Superman symbol.
Maybe you might need an arrow on the fourth panel going into the fifth.
Yeah,
But even then, I
don't
mean,
know.
where else are you going to go? Down? That doesn't make any sense.
So I also
The readers are like, what the hell are they talking about? Hi, and the listeners.
No,
You
dude.
gotta read along.
if you're on the page with the Superman diamond, you know exactly what the fuck we mean. But Amphibiman, I think, is absolutely charming as a design. When he is picking that fucking kid up and the panel's just laughter, dude, that is great. And then he just throws him
Over the horizon. That kid's fucking dead.
That kid is dead, dude.
He's dead.
And he
Well,
just
he basically grabs that guy and kills him because he's like he crunched his neck
yeah.
before he gets the kid.
Yeah, but I gotta say, don't you think, Jim, that he has just a bit of a One Punch Man feel to him?
Yo, yeah, he's here to die.
No, I mean Amphibiman. Like he
Oh.
seems very much in line with like a One Punch Man style design.
Yeah, sure.
But
I like Prism's design. Prism is cool.
I
Yeah.
don't like his headgear. The freaking
No?
like helmet with the nose. I don't think.
It's kind of like a Centurion.
Yeah,
kinda.
I don't care for it. I think it looks a little goofy.
I hated it at first, but
I like
check it out. I fucking loved it reading this. Like I think I remember clowning it in the past, but dude,
Really?
But guess what? I love it. And I love that like transformation sequence where his fucking arm is like becoming diamond. Like that's what I'm saying. And like when we had to talk about, I was like, "No, we got to talk about this a little bit." I think this is like a bit more sophisticated maybe than you would initially maybe think, you know?
Yeah.
I like it. I like the transformation sequence a lot. Here's some clear wrestling influence.
Yes.
where they fucking lock up and they're just having the contest of strength.
I don't think Prism is a fan of socialism.
No, yeah. No.
A Marxist, eh?
A Marxist, dude.
Yeah. And he's just an anarchist, Amphibian.
Tear it all
just
down.
Here to disrupt all governments. So, yeah, man. And then, again, another awesome transformation. Well, for one, okay, laser eyes, I wasn't fucking expecting.
Well, he has that in Savage Dragon.
I just have forgotten, dude. It's been so long.
How dare you?
I know. I don't think about Prism, I admit it.
How dare you?
But when he's transforming back into a normal dude to talk to, like, Karen, that's a pretty cool sequence where he's, like, all far away and he's, like, walking closer to her and he's, like, de-diamonding. It's fucking awesome, dude.
You don't remember? I thought the funniest part in, like, Savage Dragon for the appearance of Prism in Savage Dragon 135 and I think 136 was like there was all this talk about the power broker who's kind of like the next Johnny Redbeard. He had the giant hands, could give people powers.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of shows up at the end of one issue, and I feel like the next issue Prism just like eye beams him and kills him instantly. And it's just like, what?
No, dude, I do not remember that at all.
Yeah, he gets possessed and just basically starts going on a rampage.
It does seem to be a thing because his origin story is here. And apparently there's another entity living in his head.
Yeah, like a weird shaman.
Yeah, it's kind of a convoluted origin story, I'll be honest.
Yeah, not strong.
Something stole his body, and then he got the prison powers, and he got to have his body back. And now he can switch back and forth between his body and the prison body.
Right, and the shaman that's in his body is just like, at first he's like, you're mine. And then like he gets out of there and he's just, I haven't heard from the guy since. It's like, well, that's convenient.
Yeah.
Lucky. Lucky bastard. Super sweet middle of the issue, like pinup. I just think that like, again, like kind of there's nice little touches. Again, you think about like young people, like, you know, like him fucking
a big team spread.
Yeah. I don't know, it's good, dude. It's a lot of good shit. Like the pose of like Prism awkwardly learning to like walk for the first time in his diamond body, that's kind of good body language, like really selling it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
More sophisticated really than what it should be.
Some Kirby crackle in there and stuff.
Yeah, and even like you know, just all the technology on the wall behind the chick. Again.
Oh yeah, Twilight Mistress of Shadow.
Yeah.
Bring her back, please.
Yeah, dude. Love it, dude.
We get an appearance of Boom Pow Tacos on the truck.
Isn't that great? Like those tropes getting that early start, dude. This genie.
The pointy nose thing. Yeah. So strange.
Yeah. But dude, it's a thing that like you wouldn't see these days. You know what I mean?
She's got her like mob of villains in one panel, and it's got like the guy with the giant brain, weirdo, like I don't know what he is, Missile Man. Kind of looks like who's the Marvel guy that looks like that? He's got kind of like that.
Whirlwind.
Yeah.
Yes, Prism's interesting. Prism is okay. It's decent.
Prism's pretty cool. Like I gotta say, like the thing is that like there's a kind of corny, hokey vibe that I love actually. Like when he's fighting this fucking guy and he's just like, oh shit, I can't win, and he's like, I'm out of here, and just starts running away. Like that's funny as fuck, dude. I'm sorry. Like and it wasn't
how he uses the telephone.
Yeah, man, it's good. Prism, I actually like. If I give like Dragon like an 8.5, I got to give Prism like a strong like 6, just because it's got a lot of room for improvement. But like, it's kind of appealing. I kind of like it a lot. Actually, it made me reading this made me want to go back and read the Prism issues of like modern Dragon era.
And of course, there's the main event.
Yeah, this is what it's really all been building to. Are you ready? Are you ready for a deep dive? We're going to go page by page on this one. Guys, I need to know your honest opinions. What in the fuck were you feeling and thinking as you read Domestic Tranquility?
Unfortunately, my eyes glazed over, so I didn't really read it so much as kind of experience it. I'll be honest, it's rough. It's rough like there's always one of these in these like indie like anthologies.
Yeah.
There's always one. Someone's got to be the one, and unfortunately it's this.
Yeah, 2 pages. Oh. Like it's kind of like what you think a 19-year-old's comic would look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a typical 19-year-old.
Right.
I mean, I've drawn like this once upon a time. Well,
yeah, me too.
Right now.
Here's the thing, guys. We talked about this a little off air, but I've definitely seen this comic redrawn in something that Eric's been involved with.
I honestly can't tell you. I mean, maybe it was a. Maybe
I am.
Maybe it was a. You think it might have been a Twisted Funny?
Well, let me ask.
No.
Again, you said it off air. Like, you said you feel like you saw it drawn by Eric?
Yes.
So in your
redrawn.
So in your memory, when Domestic Tranquility, which by the way, dear listeners, Jim and Craig swear that Domestic Tranquility is standing on an orange. I didn't know. I thought she was on some weird shitty planet. It's an orange? Like, how was that rendered? Like, what?
Oh, all right. So listen to this.
Uh-huh.
I texted Eric himself, Gavin Higginbotham, the editor of Savage Dragon, and superfan Mark Welser. And Mark Welser pulled through. It's in Savage Dragon 228.
Oh my God! Hold on.
And we have discussed it before.
Hold on. We got to fucking Savage Dragon 228.
Hold on. I actually may have that here.
Yeah.
And we have actually discovered it, so F you guys for not, like...
No, I never didn't believe you, dude. I never didn't believe you, but, like, I got to look this up right now. I'm sorry. We're never going to get another fucking moment to talk about this. So, hold on 1 second.
So 228
was Jim's favorite issue, by the way.
Seeker issue.
A Seeker issue. Yeah, it sure fucking is. Jim, that's why you don't remember. You blocked this whole issue out of your mind. Okay, I'm sorry, dude.
So it's got graphic fantasy sketches in it. It's got a Prism, an awesome-ass Prism splash.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like part 2 or something of this Domestic Tranquility.
I do remember this now.
Look at her on the orange.
I told you guys.
Oh,
so for the listeners, we were reading this, and I was like, I totally have a recollection of Eric drawing this with some chick on an orange and a broom, and it was like the weirdest thing, and I couldn't remember where it was from.
Incredible, dude.
Is this?
Wow. It's horrible.
I almost want to say this is actually this isn't new. This redraw. I think this is just a later.
This is just a later issue of Domestic Tranquility,
right,
dude.
Like
it is.
Like
right.
He redrew it like a year later himself for something, and he reprinted it here.
Guys, Domestic Tranquility has a DT belt. Wow.
Yeah, it's like a continuation. It's not a redraw, but it's a continuation.
This is the sequel. This is the sequel. Holy shit, dude.
Because she's still on an orange, floating around, carrying a broom. And I didn't understand it at all when we had this on the FINcast, like where this came from or what it was about. And now I understand that it was part of it.
Now it all makes sense.
And if I would have read it, this is from Graphic Fantasy 3. If you read it in 228, he's got that page. It just was never printed.
Oh my god, dude. Wow. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Mark Welzer, for fucking pulling through. Mark the Superior, Gavin. But basically, like, oh, dude, you know what? Can I just say in Savage Dragon 228, take a look at Paul's fin, how good the shading sells the shape of the fin.
Yeah. It's actually on the inside cover of Graphic Fantasy 1.
Wow. Oh, hold on. I gotta look. Now you're yeah, that's the one, that's the splash page where, yeah, but the shading's not on the fin there. And look at the shading in 228.
Yeah.
The shading on 228.
It's even got the line in the front of the fin.
I'm super annoyed because I'm looking at the Savage Dragon wiki, and in the 228 listing, it does have the name Backup Story Domestic Tranquility.
Uh-huh.
But doing a search for it...
It doesn't pick it up, right?
You know what? It would help if I spelled Tranquility right. It is the first result if you spell it correctly.
You dumbass.
Son
I guess I spelt it wrong as well.
You double dumbasses.
There's 2 L's in Tranquility.
No, there's not. Otherwise, it's misspelled in Graphic
there's
Fantasy.
Not 2 L's in Tranquility.
No, there's one.
No. So that's why I couldn't find it, because it was misspelled in the wiki.
Yes, that appears to be the case, because there's only 1 L in the title in the comic. I hope someone gets fired for this.
Is there an entry for Turd Dropper?
Turd Dropper.
Yeah. Faithful Companion Turd Dropper.
No.
Probably not. No.
Absolutely not.
Guys, in Domestic Tranquility's original 2-pager, her faithful companion Turd Dropper, I literally didn't know if that was a dog or a cat. And so when Turd Dropper is attacking the cat, I was confused as to like who the companion was. I was like, what the fuck is like?
It's like a fox.
Yeah. I was like, what? Is Turd Dropper the cat or the dog? Like, who's... I mean, both cats and dogs can drop turds.
All right, we got to finish this up. And I really...
we spent way too long.
I want to talk real quick about Ironhawk.
Fucking hated it, so that's my whole contribution.
You don't like it?
Didn't like it.
What don't you like? Well, I don't want... You put yourself on blast, but, like, what really is not working for you here?
What's not working for me is the writing is confusing as shit when the aliens are talking.
Gotcha.
So I don't think the parts with like when everyone else is talking, it's fine, but like the aliens parts, they don't work for me. So like I don't understand what the fuck the snail and the centipede are trying to really accomplish. It's just their goals are confusing.
Gotcha. I agree.
Everyone else's writing is fine. Actually like the art a lot. But I just think that, like...
It's heavy Eric inks.
Well, that's the Eric inked this again, so I think certain panels look better.
Oh, well, I mean, there's great... The thing is there's great things in this. Like, when he's flying away, like, in a big loop, that's pretty awesome.
The loop panel's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, the loop panel's great. Don't love the Snake Man's design. Feel he's pretty weak. Don't love, really... the flow of the story is weird.
Yep.
Like it doesn't end with any kind of a big punch. Like you said, every comic's got to have a weak link. Like thank God for Domestic Tranquility. Otherwise, for me, it would be this Ironhawk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty damn amateur.
Yeah, it's rough, dude. It's fucking bad.
I mean, it's amateur, but it's not the worst amateur it could be. I mean,
no, Domestic Tranquility is, but. This is rough.
I wonder what it would look like before Eric inked it. You know, I can imagine it was.
Well, you can take a look at the back page. Take a look at the back page coming next issue.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what it looked like before he like?
Yeah,
put a
absolutely.
cast on it?
Because
if that was the case, holy shit! That is amateurish.
Eric is doing
definitely
all the heavy lifting, dude.
Damn.
Yeah.
See, Al Harris drew the top one.
Even Al
Kevin
Harris
Keyes.
is a lot rougher if that's the case.
Oh,
Eric
rougher.
is like really doing the heavy lifting on all of these. If these are accurate to what the actual
artists
were capable of at the time.
There's a reason why he's inking all their stories,
right? Because even though he's 19 and they're like, what? Hold on here, he's 30. Even though he's 19 and they're 32 and 25. like clearly one of these guys has been training to be an artist all his life.
Not like the other.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, it's just the sad story. I mean, it's just some people just aren't talented, you know, want to draw or write, you know. No, I'm not trying to be, you know, harsh or anything. They're just not. They don't have the talent. I mean, but they're probably avid comic collectors and want to make a comic.
Some girls got it and some girls don't. No, I'm kidding. I don't mean to be a shitty bastard about it. Like, to me, hey, look, dude, you know, it is what it is. Eric is just a fucking prodigy. It's clearly like what the fuck we saw here. And like you said, Craig, the other guys had passion. They just wanted to see a comic made, and thank God they fucking did, dude. They brought Eric Larson into the fucking world, so we owe him a fucking...
Well, I think his mom did that, but...
Well, they brought Eric Larson into the comic world. No, but I'll shut up. What did you like about it, Jim? Like, what did you love, dude? Like, I don't
love any of it, but
right.
I think there's an interesting concept here. At least in like, I really like the armor designs, the costume designs.
Yeah, me too.
I think there's hope there.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of it's almost like it's hard to tell what the influences are, because I almost feel like there's a Hawkman, Hawkgirl sort of thing in here.
Okay.
But it's also got like an old like Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers sort of like sci-fi thing going on too.
There's some
as you said, there's a lot of confusion about like motivations of the aliens and the robots and the other aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to tell why these people were picked for this, because what it sounded like is they were being like set up to fail.
Yeah, they needed him to die in the spacesuit, but to what end?
To make one of the alien races look bad, or give
wild as
excuse
shit.
to invade Earth, something like that.
Dig a goddamn corpse out of the earth. It's full of them, and stuff it in his spacesuit. You maniacs! Like, what the fuck? Yeah. They're going through such trouble to have a dead body in a suit to make someone look bad. Earth's full of dead bodies.
They got to call in some assassins who aren't very good at their jobs. And
no.
Yeah, it's a little overly convoluted, but I do kind of like the suits and the ray guns, and the robots are actually kind of, the Doctor Doom-esque robots are kind of neat.
Also like those Doombots. I do, actually.
Yeah.
And I shat on the Snake Man, but I am going to say that there is a weird D&D type feel about him.
Oh, absolutely. They're axe-wielding Snake Men.
Yeah, he's fighting people with guns, and he's just sticking to that axe.
Yeah,
and it's like
those blasts with that axe is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. So I don't like. It's not pure hate, dude. I mean, I like what I like about it. Craig, we've not heard much from you, dude. Lay it on us.
I just didn't enjoy it. To be honest, I skimmed through a lot of it. I just wasn't interested, honestly. There's too much to read, and I just I skimmed the art. Like you guys mentioned, there's some good panels, but a lot of it is very amateur. And
I will say, yeah, there's a lot of, in general, there's a lot of unnecessary dialogue in a lot of these comics in here.
Big time, dude.
It's just comes down to like these guys are still new at this.
Honest to God, the coolest part about reading Ironhawk was that when I flipped to the back pinup, I had wondered who the fuck the snail character was.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the Doombot.
Now you know.
Now I know, dude.
I do like how the aliens, like the centipede alien, looks really cool.
He looks very cool, actually.
Centipede.
Yeah.
I do like how they're not just humanoid type characters.
Like the zipatone on the centipede in the one panel where he's sort of like there's perspective on him. That's actually kind of awesome.
Yeah, it is.
But overall, horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice this. Apparently, Domestic Tranquility is doing the dishes in that panel.
Isn't that nice? Yeah. But again, before I wouldn't have thought anything about it. I'd have been like, who's doing the dishes? No, it's Domestic Tranquility, dude. I'm thankful. I'm thankful for this. I actually we're being shitty. We're ending on. I don't want to end on a sour note with this. I'm thankful that this exists. I think it's wild. It seems, for all intents and purposes, like a comic shop. King Arthur's bookshop just had a bunch of dudes that just wanted to help make a comic, and there you go.
So graphic.
Well, it's definitely.
No, you go ahead. You got something else to say.
I was just gonna say it's just awesome to have a reproduction of this based on the prices that these comics, the originals, go for. So
that was the whole point.
I never thought we would get that. So it was kind of quite a surprise that he was reprinting it, seeing that he's had it in the back of Savage Dragon before printed, but to actually have it stand alone with the other comics in it and be able to read those, just neat.
Totally agree.
So Graphic Fantasy number 2, apparently there was a change at some point. Instead of being an anthology, each issue of Graphic Fantasy was going to focus on a single character. And in this case, Dragon got the second issue, and then there was never a third, as far as I know.
There was a third, but there was very little, or Eric wasn't in it. I think he drew the cover, and that was it.
And was that a Prism?
Well, that's
Prism?
what's in...
Is that what turned into Prism number 1?
No. Well, actually, you might be right on that, but some of Graphic Fantasy 3 is what's reprinted in that issue that we were just talking about. What issue did I say that was? The one with the Part 2 Domestic Tranquility.
Right. I thought that was unused stuff.
Yeah, well, because 3 was never printed, but there was that Prism kind of splash in the Domestic Tranquility, and then I think you are right. I think the Prism stuff might have gone on to become Prism number 1.
Yeah, because that probably would have been in Graphic Fantasy number 3, and then of course Ironhawk would have gotten 4, and that never happened. What could have been?
I think Eric was just doing most of the heavy lifting, and that's kind of why it just
clearly because
fizzled.
Because he wound up drawing the other. He probably intended to draw the first. Domestic Tranquility pages as well. It's kind of interesting that he didn't, since he did do it for the next.
Right.
So we reviewed this very recently. We talked about this specific story because it got colored back in the Paul issue of Savage Dragon. Savage Dragon. I was never here when I wanted. Come on. 226, I think.
Nice.
Or no, not 26. 51. Yeah, 51 makes sense.
Let me just read real quick for the listeners, if you guys don't mind. This is from Savage Dragon Archives number 2.
Okay.
He did a couple quick paragraphs about issue 2. But basically he says, in 82, Al Harris, Kevin Keyes, myself printed up the 72-page first issue of Graphic Fantasy. In the process of putting together that first effort, it became clear that the three of us worked at different speeds and that it would be ridiculous for us to expect every issue of the series to be as lengthy as our first issue. We decided that the three of us would take turns, each getting his shot at writing and drawing the book, and that whoever got their act together first would get to have the book all to themselves. Needless to say, I got my act together first. Kevin and Al would get their turns, but the second issue of Graphic Fantasy featured the second adventure of the dragon. It would be the last Dragon solo story for the next 10 years. Shortly after its publication, I turned, quote, pro. This story and the previous Dragon yarn in the first issue led to me getting hired by Gary Carlson to work on Megaton. So,
right.
There you
Nice.
The Megaton issues, Dragon fights Vanguard, and among other things.
Yep.
Nice, dude. Good pickup.
So, what else? What's
Yeah,
this
there's
thing?
not too.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's not too much. Like you said, we've gone over these.
I will say this. This is the first time I've read this issue and I really understood something, because here's the thing. It's really stupid, but I had a really hard time for a long time telling that Marcy and Sue weren't the same person.
Yeah.
It was very confusing to me because I didn't have a lot of context for these stories, and every time I saw these, Dragon would be talking about his dead wife, but then Marcy would also be there. And it was just, something about it just didn't make sense to me off the bat, especially in black and white when they look identical.
I was gonna say they look a little different.
Do they?
Yeah, Marcy got big eyes.
Alright. I just see blonde woman.
I like the cover to this issue with the
Possessed?
deep blacks. It's a pretty striking cover, and the Graphic Fantasy title with the blood and stuff. I mean, it sticks out.
Yeah.
And the Possessed, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good cover for kind of a indie, low-budget comic.
It's funny. It still stands out on the shelf even today. Like, I'll walk by and be like, "Oh shit, what's that?" Oh yeah, Graphic Fantasy 2.
Of the two covers, this one definitely is the most standout-ish one, I would say, for sure.
Yeah.
It's got that interesting like radial color thing too. Kind of makes it look like a bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how hard that was to do. The way coloring used to be done.
Think about poor Eric getting his act together before everyone else all the time.
Well, that's what Eric does.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's gone on to be his legacy.
I just do it myself.
carrying the weight, carrying the book. Image 10th anniversary, Image 0.
I think this issue, you actually seeing even Eric's skills getting better. Like the Possessor in the beginning, that villain, he's neat looking.
Yeah.
Like his face and everything looks cool. Even Dragon, that like, I don't know what page it is for the listeners, but there's a page where like the panel, right after he kind of, it's a little awkward. The panel where he's got his, like the Possessor in a leg lock around his neck.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I see it, yep.
Below that, the one with
the
bottom left
face?
cover. Yeah, and it enraged him. That's a cool panel for back,
Was Dragon always as hairy, or is just Paul really hairy?
Dragon's just a hairy bastard, dude.
Yeah, and probably not as hairy as he's kind of shown as, Paul, but you got a little kill cat and dart action in some of the tubes.
That was confusing as well, because it
Rock.
was in the previous issue, it was clear that the deadly duo were Killcat and the Kid. Here it's kind of implied it's Killcat and Dart.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I like how Rock has got like more of like the Ben Grimm face without like teeth or anything.
Rough looking.
But he doesn't look as different from his later version as I thought he did. I actually thought he looks a lot different. What he doesn't have is like those dot eyes that he eventually gets.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah, go ahead.
As I say, there's one panel here I again enjoy is the one where like the whole team is watching
The video,
the film, and and there's Zeke without his helmet and Dart and what's the name of the guy that recently appeared that Paul Drago went to visit?
He's a bionic man.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. He's there. Rock, that some Dormammu looking guy, like a flame head.
Right.
There's half of half man.
It's kind of a rip because you're getting to see the alien half of half man, but not the
Which
man.
looks like he has two mouths.
Yeah, a little bit.
His chin's got chin. Who's the woman on the end?
Yeah.
In the afro. Do we know who she is?
No, but it's
He did an interview with us where he tells us.
Oh, yeah.
Like he literally
he did.
told us who every one of those characters were. So
right.
So listeners, look it up.
Yeah, it's whatever episode we covered the backup colored version of this.
250. It was 250. So yeah. Anyway, not that important, but
No, it's not.
fun.
Oh boy, I'm just looking at Mako in his Namor trunks.
Dude, it's so great. I love that. Like just the fucking the comedy of him saying, "It's me, Mako." It's like, dude, would you ever need to say that, you giant
It's
shark
me.
man? In case he thought it was like someone else.
The panel with Jennifer is dead and a skeleton is pretty gruesome.
Pretty brutal, yeah.
Goddamn bronze man.
We got some Reggie the Veggie. I mean, I'm just like, God, dude, it's crazy.
Wait, Reggie the Veggie, that is where?
It is on Angel's shirt when they're at the diner. Same page as a Boom Pow Tacos.
Yes, I see it now.
Jim, you had brought this up on the on issue when we covered issue 250 for the colored version, but I like how when Star's calling Paul up, and that background photo has got like old school Dragon when he was like still human with a mask on. So
Flash Mercury.
yeah, and so it really counts. It's not like Eric just kind of changed it.
As I understand it, it was an evolution. Apparently, he was bonded with not Robinson, the other one.
William Johnson?
Johnson. He was bonded with Johnson, and then at some point they got separated, and that's why Dragon looks the way he does now.
Right.
Right, which is kind of like what Eric revisited around issue 50.
It's also funny because...
when he had Fonte separate him.
I know you pointed it out in the previous one, Craig, but look again. There's Paul when he's yawning. There's the line drawn once again on the fin. I know it sounds funny, but I feel like that line...
It's like that pie wedge.
Yeah, I feel like that would help people. Like, comprehend the fin.
For the listeners out there, we have this ongoing discussion about what the fin looks like. Because, with Paul Dragon in the regular series now, when he looks sideways, it looks almost like a flat small fin, or... I don't know. We've beaten this to death, but that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I feel like, Craig, you ended that with your clay model turnaround. I was like, oh, yeah. You got it. That's it.
Well, Eric didn't say no, so that was good.
Yeah. He said that's basically it.
Yeah.
So the main...
So, yeah.
Like the other issue, this issue was also repurposed into a modern retelling of this particular story. Many characters were changed to fit the modern aesthetic. But one big change in this is that at the end of this story, his girlfriend stays with him. But in the revised one, she leaves him.
Right.
Yeah, in 65, Marcy is peace out. We don't see her around anymore.
Bye.
She can't handle all this drama.
Dare she stay by this man? No, not in modern continuity.
Who would?
So Graphic Fantasy was $1 for number 2. Someone asked.
What a
earlier.
deal.
Damn, dude.
$1? Man, I can't afford that in 1982. That's almost like... I don't know what $1 buys in 1982.
It's 100 penny whistles.
That's more than what comics were going for, probably.
Yeah, that's also true. They probably were like 50 cents still. 75 cents, maybe.
I think when I first started, they were like 75 or close to it.
They were already $1.25 when I was a kid.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I started, it was like $1 or something.
When I started really collecting, but I have some earlier issues from like going to the supermarket and stuff and just buying. Before I was like buying monthly, I was just getting random ones. But I think they were like 75 cents.
Draw the line at $2.99.
They managed that for a couple of years.
Oh, good.
Everything's $4 now.
I know that seems crazy, but like again, if you buy like Eric's candy bar thing is a fucking perfect thing. It's like if you buy soda or candy, it's like
for a fucking bottle of Coke now. So
yeah, sure, dude. I had to buy a tea maker and start drinking sweet tea. I was like, I just spent $10 on 3 bottles of pop. No, fucking can't do that shit. Nah. But yeah, it's inflation is all. It's like, yeah, $4 is like, oh, I could get a whole video game for that much, and you can.
King size Twix. What this bullshit?
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, dudes, what a fantastic couple of facsimile issues. And again, we'll never be going back further than this unless something
go back
fucking...
in time to his burning house. We'll plan a heist. We'll go back in time and steal it before they catch fire. And then
That's it, dude.
now so
Time
no
heist.
Causality mistakes.
Well, there wouldn't be any causality because he thought it was lost all these years. You see, it's the perfect crime. Perfect time crime.
That's always a funny story. Well, funny story. It's a tragic story. But when he always said he lost it in his house fire, I always thought he just had a house fire. I didn't realize it was part of like a massive brush fire that swept through his area.
Oh, is that right? I guess I didn't realize
sure
that.
It was like a big brush fire, forest fire dealy that took out a whole bunch of houses.
That had to be pretty devastating for him, for as much as he loves comics and probably the art he had and stuff like that.
He lost so much original art from even guys like Kirby. which is probably one of the greater tragedies is all that art being lost, all that historically important stuff.
I thought that happened like when he was like really young. That happened when he was a Kirby collector.
This happened
when he was drawing Spider-Man.
God damn.
That's why there's not much original art from
these reproductions here. I'm pretty sure
Spider-Man
are
series.
reproduced from scans of the comics, not original art, because this is all lost.
Wow.
Well, I think the Prism stuff he said he got from Al Harris to re.
Anything that was with somebody else, I'm sure he would still have. But
yeah.
Damn, dude. I didn't realize it. I really didn't realize it. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to find like some of that like classic Spider-Man
because it was all lost.
Yeah. Man, that's wild as a motherfucker. I just had no idea, that's all. I just had no idea.
So I think that wraps this up. Essentially, I mean, it is fascinating to take a look back at this stuff, just to see where things began and where they could go. Because I love Paul conceptually, and I really would like to see Eric tell more stories in the old universe. But it's it's become apparent that he's forgotten a lot about it with stuff because he's always trying to jog his own memory about what the deal was with some of this stuff with Paul.
Right.
So it's as much as I would like him to do that, I don't think it's very practical for him because he would just basically be making stuff up fresh, so it wouldn't really be revisiting anything.
And he went on record as saying that basically you can't consider Paul to be verbatim this guy.
Yeah, he's not.
I think he's. Yeah, he said the time exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. He said he would have had to have been he'd be 70 or 60 or something. So
yeah, the Megaton issues feature Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
So
right.
I personally would have completely accepted the fact that he is older and from the 80s, and doesn't look that much older because he's a freaking green alien. Who knows what the fuck he's supposed to look like? But right. I would have preferred a real time Paul to a slightly altered, same age as Dragon would be Paul. But that's just me.
I think commercially that would have failed like hell. If just this old fucking small fin bastard showed up, people would have been like, ugh.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't have to look old. He's an alien.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right. You're right. Never mind. What the fuck am I talking about? You literally just said that. I'm an idiot.
He should have been from the Reagan administration.
He's always lecturing Malcolm on Reaganomics.
Exactly.
Now, Malcolm, you just get that wealth. You'll help everyone eventually.
Yes, Boomer Paul. Yes, that's what we need.
No one would want that. You would want.
I wasn't prepared to like Paul as much as I do.
Me either.
I really do like
the
character.
Stupid. He's just like Dragon, except he's got a dopier fin, and everybody wants to accept him except Malcolm. And that's what I love, is that he's like an imposter. And everyone just kind of accepts because their lives are crazy, except for Malcolm.
The fin is totally grown on me, dude. I dig it. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, man.
I like it a lot.
Keep that fin, and I'm hoping he gets his rage power. Shows up.
Rage power.
I'm angry. His eyes just go white. He just fucking knocks the shit out of someone.
Up.
Yes, dude. I really am. The timing on this is awesome. I hope that more little things trickle out of the Paul universe. Eric left the door open when, he was Paul was oh, Mako, did you find me? This Paul, modern Paul, thinks that it's possible.
Yeah, he's obsessed with it. He's looking for survivors, or at least people with memories that remember him. I think ultimately that's going to be his ultimate downfall, is that he's going to be true loneliness is going to hit this man.
He's boning Alex. It'll work out.
No amount of boning Alex is going to save him from the existential dread of being the last survivor of your universe. No
one cares. I mean, dude, Malcolm and them, they're the last survivors of their universe. They don't give a shit. They never look in the mirror and say,
it helps
what am I doing?
Is dramatically different for Paul. We'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it's really cool.
Around. I mean, he's going to get that metal arm. We've got new covers with more metal arms, so.
Yeah. I will say that I think fan reaction overall has been positive to Paul.
Yeah. It's certainly an interesting twist to the whole bringing Dragon back. argument. I think that's the most interesting part, is that we get to have our cake and eat it too, which doesn't always happen.
Right.
What are you thinking when you say that?
Well, what I'm saying is the problem with bringing Dragon back again is that he'd be bringing Dragon back again.
Right.
At least bringing Dragon back as Paul is dramatically different.
Right.
It's not retreading again the resurrection of the man.
Right.
Got it.
He even looks different.
He looks different, and his powers are different, and his role is different, and so you actually have a way to get past the problem of Dragon being too charismatic for his own good, so Malcolm doesn't get overshadowed. Malcolm is still the main character. Paul is a supporting character. If you bring Dragon back, you have a serious problem every single time.
Totally agree. Every time Dragon's in an issue, like every time Dragon was in an issue, he literally stole the show.
Yeah.
Even
when he had no powers, he just did it most of the time. He had to take his powers away and put him in prison just to justify him not being around.
Right. I'm glad he's dead.
funny.
Fuck him.
I'm glad he's dead too. I wish he had stayed dead that time Dark Lord blew him up. I was absolutely kind of pissed when he got brought back that last time.
It's good though, dude. It's in a good place. I think Paul is a fantastic addition. I love this. Kind of helps people get more acclimated to the idea of Paul, and yeah, I don't know. It's good things. I think I hope Paul doesn't get like Daredevil or Captain Tootsied. Sometimes
I don't think you go that far, because those characters can tend to fade into the background, like Daredevil in particular.
Right, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. Is like I hope like Paul doesn't. Paul's such an awesome character. I hope Paul doesn't just like sort of eventually just become background noise. Like, let's keep Paul around. Hopefully. All right, man.
Looks like he'll be around for a while.
You guys,
Based on the covers.
You guys feeling good?
I'm feeling good in the hood.
Yeah.
Cowabunga?
I think it's time to wrap this up.
So, as always, if you got any comments, suggestions, or questions, you can find us on SavageFINcast.com. We post our episodes on iTunes, Google Play, Anchor FM, and Spotify. You can, of course, find us on YouTube at Savage FINcast, our channel, Savage FINcast. And, of course, you can drop us an email at savagefincast@gmail.com. So,
Thank you so much, listeners.
Thank you for listening. Hope you hear from us again. Wait, that's not how it goes.
Hope you hear from us again.
Do you know something I don't?
But you may not.